All Creatures Big and Small is a simplified two-player version of the hit game Agricola. It's designed by Uwe Rosenberg and published by Zedman Games.
In All Creatures Big and Small, players manage competing animal farms and race to raise as much livestock as possible. It's a strictly two-player game that plays in about 30 to 40 minutes. There is an expansion called More Buildings, Big and Small, which adds 27 new special buildings to the game and really increases your strategic options.
Each player begins All Creatures Big and Small with their own farm board, 3 farmer tokens, and 9 border tokens. The main board is set up with its resources and animals, and the farm expansions, as well as stacks of buildings, so a stack of stalls and 4 unique special buildings. One player claims the starting player token, and the game begins.
All Creatures Big and Small has 8 rounds, each of which is divided into 4 phases: refill, work, home, and breeding. During the refill phase, each of the action spaces with an arrow on it is refilled with the allotted number of the resource that's depicted on it. Now, the animal spaces have 2 different resources listed on them. The first is added during refill phases where that space is empty, while the second one, which is marked with brackets, is added only once something else already occupies that space.
In the work phase, players take turns placing their worker tokens on action spaces on the main board and taking the actions associated with them. Each space can only hold 1 worker token. Now, these action spaces will let you collect resources, so reeds, stone, or wood, or collect one of the 4 types of animals: cows, pigs, sheep, or horses. Also, the 1 wood action space will allow you to claim the starting player token.
Now, you can stockpile any amount of building materials, but your animals need to be kept on your farm board. Your cottage can hold a single animal, and every other building has a storage capacity listed in its lower right. Otherwise, animals must live in enclosed pastures with a capacity of 2 animals per space, and each pasture can only hold animals of a single type. If there's any animals you collect that you cannot keep, they're going to run away, although you can rearrange the animals within your farm at any point during the game.
The other action spaces allow you to build new buildings for your farm by spending building materials. Fences and walls let you enclose pastures. Walls that are attached to buildings can be a part of that enclosure. If you add a feeding trough to a building or to an enclosed pasture, that doubles the capacity. And if you add a feeding trough to an unenclosed pasture, you can keep 1 animal there.
Now, you can also build stalls, which can hold 3 animals, or convert existing stalls into stables, which can hold 5. There's also 2 action spaces that allow you to build special buildings. Each of these, like the stalls and stables, is going to have a victory point value. They're also going to provide you with a bonus or a benefit over the course of the game, and all of them except for the storage building can also hold animals.
The expand space allows you to claim an expansion for your farm in order to have room for more animals, and it also lets you claim the border tokens that have piled up there. 1 is added during each refresh phase in a round. There are 8 in total to be added, so this adding during the refresh phase acts as a game timer.
After the work phase, all 3 of a player's workers come home. Next, it's time for the breeding phase. Now, for each type of animal of which a player has 2 or more in the same space, they're going to gain 1 additional animal, as long as there's room for it.
After the 8th round, players add up their victory points, and they get these points from animals, from buildings, or bonuses from using up all of their farm expansions. If you have less than 4 of any one type of animal, you will lose points for that. The player with the most victory points at the end is declared the winner.
Now, I'll admit that the first time I heard about All Creatures Big and Small, I was concerned that it was going to be a bit of a poorly executed money grab to capitalize on the success of Agricola. And I'm actually really pleased to say that it's a very tightly and thoughtfully designed little game. It While it simplifies the mechanics, it keeps the elements of Agricola that made it such a strong game. You've really got to balance your decisions carefully. There's not time to really make a lot of mistakes, so you've got to plan ahead well. And you're also really forced to adapt to the decisions of your opponent. All of that is beautifully preserved. It's also got a very well designed board. Everything flows really well and is intuitive. And I love the neat little thoughtful touches, like the fact that the borders act as a timer, or the fact that your first player token is double-sided and shows both a male and a female character. While I'm talking about the components, I am also going to get super excited about the animeeples because they are awesome. They're really nicely designed. There's a great sense of these beautiful wooden components that seem to be getting rarer in games these days, and they're also really, really cute, which is something that I don't really want to underestimate because you don't always see it in the more serious traditional Euros. Now, one drawback of that stripped down design in All Creatures is that you do lose some of the multiple paths to victory that were available in the core game of Agricola because of the occupations and the major improvements and just the broader diversity of choices. You are a little more constrained in what you can do here, so it may start to get a little bit stale after multiple games, which is why I think they released that expansion so soon after the release of the original game.
So another con that some people can see in this game is that from the original Agricola, they did drop the feeding phase, which means that resource management isn't as important. It means that your tensions are brought down a little bit. It's not quite so high stakes. It is going to feel like probably a little bit more of a relaxed game than Agricola. That might occur. It might occur to some people that that was a really important part of the original game. They might be bothered that that was removed. That being said, I like this game more than Agricola. I wasn't particularly excited about Agricola when it came out, and I was a bit concerned about this game. I thought it would be more of the same. But to be honest, it is streamlined and tightened up to the point where I really enjoy this game a lot more than I did the original, which is fantastic. I'm really glad that they did something with this rule set that I can enjoy. It is incredibly fast to set up, really, really quick to learn, and easy to play. The games are going to go by quickly. You've always got something to do. It's also a competitive game, but it's not particularly confrontational. So if you've got somebody that you really love to play with who doesn't particularly enjoy sort of killing the other person in a game, but still enjoys competition, then this game is really going to sit well if you want to play with that person. So I'm very happy with All Creatures. I'm really glad that we got to review it because I think that this is a great evolution of Agricola.